Aquí en Davos, en Suiza, en el marco del Foro Económico Mundial, nos encontramos con André Calantzopoulos. Él es el CEO, el director general mundial de Philip Morris International. Vamos a hablar con él sobre el futuro de esta empresa que hace cigarrillos hasta el momento, pero que está viendo un futuro sin humo. Y queremos agradecerle mucho que tome esta entrevista. André, how are you?
Very good, Carlos. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us. And Andre, you recently wrote a letter, a world famous letter, envisioning a different future for Philip Morris International. What's in the letter?
Well, essentially, we said that our purpose going forward is to replace cigarettes with better alternatives that essentially do not burn tobacco, so they don't generate smoke, so they're smoke free by definition. And the ambition is to do this as soon as possible. And on our side, clearly, we put the necessary investment in these new products that are better for the people who smoke, and also have done all the work on doing the scientific evaluation of these products to demonstrate that obviously for the individuals they're better than cigarettes. And on the other side, we started commercializing these products. They are present now in 46 countries around the world. And we make the commercial investment and we put our people behind the success of this commercialization. So essentially we put our money where ambition and mouth is. And we are having very good success and progress around the world.
So this will mean you will stop selling cigarettes at some point in the future.
Well, for the moment, clearly, we have to continue selling cigarettes because if we stop selling cigarettes, people will buy other people's brands, and I don't think we achieve anything. As I said, we have a two-pronged strategy. Don't give away market share unnecessarily to our competitors on the existing business, but most importantly, shift resources and put incremental commercial investment behind the better alternative products that are reduced risk, so we can get to our ambition of eventually one day stop selling cigarettes as soon as possible. Now, as I said previously, we do our bit there in terms of the investment we've made in the past, $4.5 billion to develop and do the science around these products. We are investing commercially. In many markets we're present, 80% of our commercial expenditure or more is behind the reduced risk products. But we cannot achieve this alone. On the other side, we absolutely need governments to help. And this help is in form of regulation. But first of all is to accept the principle that consumers who smoke today have the right to be informed if there is something better than cigarettes, and these products exist today.
What has been the response so far from investors, from governments, from consumers?
Well, from a consumer point of view, I think the response has been very positive. Different speeds, obviously, in different markets, and they very much correlate to what ability under the existing laws and regulations you have to talk to consumers. Because some of the products in the portfolio, the ones that hit tobacco and don't burn it, they still fall in many countries under the cigarette category. There is no differentiation today, and that's a very important point to differentiate going forward. And so with different speeds, we're growing in every market. Clearly, we have markets where these products are above 20% of total consumption, like in Japan, which something achieved in 2 years, which I think is phenomenal from a public health because no regulatory intervention has ever achieved such an objective, move people fully out of cigarettes at such large numbers. And in Europe, where essentially almost in every country, we're also progressing very rapidly. We're growing every week. And as we are here and we talk about Mexico, I hope soon we will have the right regulatory framework so that the men and women who smoke in Mexico, and there are millions, have access to these new products as an alternative to smoking. And, you know, it's obviously this is not a product that is risk-free, and it is addictive, but for the people that will not otherwise quit, I think the regulation should be there for the consumers to be informed and make the right choices.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about actually Mexico, not only in terms of consumer, but also in terms of investments. Do you envision in this new strategy to have some sort of investments in a country like Mexico? That I mean, it's a country that has so many smokers right now, but within this new vision, do you have those strategies in mind? And which pace, which speed do you think in that specific country and in Latin America your new strategy will be deployed at?
Well, Mexico is a country in where we have been for very, very many years. And as you know, in the cigarette business, we have the largest part of the market. So we're very committed to the country. We manufacture already in Mexico. And clearly, if we have the opportunity to get the right regulation, which I hope will come soon, there will be obviously investments in Mexico to manufacture these products locally.
Yeah. And when you see all these patterns for these types of investments, how do you see the consumer actually adopting the product within the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, which stages will we see in this adoption?
Well, the first stage is like in any other product category. The first thing is to explain to the consumers what the problem is. There is a clear misunderstanding today about what is the problem in cigarettes. Actually, people believe tobacco is the problem, nicotine is the problem, and actually the real problem is that we deliver taste and nicotine by burning organic matter like tobacco.
Yeah, it's the burning process, right?
It's the burning process that creates the toxicants. So it's not nicotine. Yes, nicotine is addictive, but it's the least of the concern. This is not only me who says that. This is the United States FDA that make very clear policy statements in this direction, and other governments. So the first is to make people understand that if they move away from combustion, then that's the first best move. Okay? Obviously, the best is quit completely nicotine. So the first is the awareness that the product exists and the understanding of what this product does for you and what it is not, as we just said. The second is clearly to have some means and the commercial investment behind, so we amplify among smokers. So one, over time, convinces the other, and then, like in any other product, you have the amplifying effects.
So that's the marketing stage?
Yes, that's a marketing stage. But the preamble to this, as we talk also about Mexico, but other countries, is to have the right regulation that authorizes this product. Sometimes we have this very, polarized point of view, and I think that's a good subject since we're in Davos, because we are having increasingly polarized societies in the world.
It's like bullfight, it's like everything's polarized now.
But, we can talk about, but that's something I observe every day. We have people that say in public health, in the NGOs, that no alternative should be provided to the people who smoke. It's like we said, okay, we burn oil, we create energy. Is not the problem. Oil is not the problem. Obviously, it's the fact that we burn it to generate energy, same as cigarettes. We say, we said, no, people should stop using oil. They should not be having solar panels, aeolian energy, because it's not that these products have zero impact on the environment. They're just better. So the principle of better is good. It's pretty obvious in any category. I mean, electric cars have no zero impact, but we believe it's better than combustion. So the same should apply here. We have to move away from this polarization, because to achieve the objective of moving people out of cigarettes in very large numbers very fast, we need a conversation between producers of products, the general public, and governments. Government have a role to play by first accepting the principle that better alternatives to cigarettes should be made available, and then define exactly how we bring them to market and how we communicate to people so they can make their own decisions, but also minimize unintended use by young people, by people that used to smoke, and they should not come back to the nicotine consumption. But that requires a concerted effort and a will of parties to address first the principle and then find the right solutions.
Right. Finally, Andre, I would like to ask you, what do you expect from Davos, from the World Economic Forum, from the discussion here in Switzerland? You've already said something about this polarization, but I think Davos has changed all over the world and over the time. And what do you think?
Well, I think Davos is an important forum, and within many, to discuss the challenges we're facing today. Whether we like it or not, we are facing societies where the middle classes are kind of left behind, and there is an increasing inequality of income between the very wealthy and the rest, which leads to, first of all, polarization, then populistic movements, extremism sometimes, and then protectionism. All of these things not being conducive to a harmonious future. And I think it's the responsibility of companies, because every company, product or service has some impact on people or the environment, to bring solutions in a pragmatic way. And it's only through conversation and dialogue, and not this very tribal, polarizing way we see everywhere. I mean, sometimes I say our society is becoming digital increasingly. We talk about artificial intelligence, but somehow we became binary in our thinking. It's zero good or bad, 0 or 1. So we have to move away from this digitalization, if you want, of the thinking, and find the middle way that can help us. And I hope here, this conversation for my own business and industry in particular, that is facing many of these phenomena, but also more generally, as we move into the fourth industrial revolution, as we're going to have artificial intelligence that's going to have some impact on the people, we need to anticipate this and do it in a very well-balanced and regulated way.
Any final word for the Mexican consumer, for the Mexican regulators, for Mexico, Andre?
Well, my final word is, let's move away from a little bit ideological, emotional aspects and polarization, and let's make sure that we bring better alternatives to the millions of Mexicans, men and women, that smoke today, so that they have a choice that can have a better impact on them and the people around them. And I'm hopeful that this will happen as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you, Carlos.
Bueno, continuamos. Estamos aquí en Davos, en el marco del Foro Económico Mundial. Continuamos.